It's about that time. This is the NHL Trade Deadline preview. You're listening to 1 Second Left.
He shoots, he scores!
The home side is suddenly going now. Crowd loving it. It's a ball, flying ball.
Home run!
3, 2, 1. Let's check out the Western Conference. This is the NHL Trade Deadline preview.
Well, I think they contend this year. I think obviously if Phoenix wants to get there, they got to make some moves. I think Dallas has to make some moves if they want to do anything, because those two right now, as we speak, are sitting 7-8. And if they want to try and contend against Vancouver, Detroit in 1-2, they need major upgrades. I don't know they have the assets to do that. So in this case, who knows? I like Nashville making a few moves as well. I think Chicago needs some solidification in their bottom six and some scoring, because I think right now, I mean, they're on a bit of a downswing. They've had a really inconsistent season. And I like Chicago a lot, as in one of the other podcasts. I really had them as a favorite for me. But there's something about them right now that kind of worries me as far as consistency and depth.
And Taves being hurt does not help either.
Does not help at all. Their goaltending's real suspect.
Right, and he got in a car accident this week, for people who don't know. The thought is he might have a concussion. All right, so going through just some players in the Western Conference who might get traded. What do you think of the chances of Jonathan Bernier being traded?
I think they're pretty good. I think LA is pretty happy with where they are in their youth. And I think he can net them a fair bit. And they're like some of our writers have been saying, there's some teams that definitely want some goaltending out there that want to make a playoff run.
Do you think Rick Nash gets traded?
Going into today, I didn't think he was. I liked all that talk about him being traded later on after the season to some of those teams that definitely want him, but want him for the full year. Don't want him as a rental kind of thing, even though he's got another year on his contract. He's got a lot. He's got more than that. He's got 6 years. Sorry. So I didn't see him going at all until Carter went. Now I'm beginning to think that he may go, but I don't know.
I think he goes. I think the news doesn't come out for Nash. He's a quiet guy if he's not looking to get traded. So I believe that he's going to be traded. Where, I don't know. I see him going to San Jose. I was talking to Ryan about it earlier. I know I'm a San Jose fan. San Jose doesn't have a lot of years left to make this run. Boyle is definitely the oldest out of all of them. I mean, Marleau and Thornton are only 32 years old. Probably have a couple more years left. But Boyle, I mean, he's playing great still, but he is getting older. That team needs to win. They need to win within this year or next year. They made major moves in this offseason to further themselves in the playoffs. Ray Ferraro said this week that he sees them one top six forward away. He doesn't see Martin Havlat as that top six forward. So Rick Nash would be that top six forward. Now, the deal you can make for it, is it a Phil Kessel type deal, 2 first-round draft picks and a second? I don't think that might not be enough this year. I don't know. But I mean, that would be their chunk to get Rick Nash out of Columbus.
Okay, let me ask you this. Steve Ott's name is coming up a lot. That's one of those, we mentioned in our breakdown there of a lot of teams needing third and fourth line, bottom six depth. Steve Ott wouldn't make the top six in a lot of those top teams in the West or anywhere else for that matter. He would definitely be a candidate for that third and fourth line type of player. Do you see him going right? If so, do you have a fit? Do you personally have a fit for Steve Ott anywhere? Or is he just going to be, plugged into any one of those teams needing that bottom six depth? I
think anybody who goes for Steve Ott is getting a great third line player. Now, he could fit in your top two if you probably wanted it to as well. There are not many teams that couldn't use him. I'd probably look at St. Louis could get him. I mean, if you think of Backus then Ott, like coming on different lines, like that's some heavy-duty hitting and some heavy-duty players. Obviously, the Predators would be good. I mean, I'm just looking at the Western Conference. The next podcast we'll touch on the Eastern Conference. Ott could help a lot of Eastern Conference teams as well. I mean, he would fit perfectly into Boston, I think. A lot of these teams can't afford him. He's there for another couple of years on a contract.
And the last name, sorry, I'll say, ask you about coming out of the West since we're still there, is there's a lot of people talking about Wisniewski leaving the Ducks as a D-man, and the teams that we're looking at that might need some D depth or some scoring from the D. Do you think He's going. I mean, you have a better handle on the West than I do.
Yeah, I don't think he goes. I mean, if he does go, it's not for much. I don't think. I mean, he's not a young guy anymore. 35 years old. I mean, Edmonton's not going to happen. I mean, Edmonton needs some defense. There's no reason for him to go there.
He's a rental player.
He's a rental player.
Sure.
He's a rental player. 35 years old now. I mean, he's not the player he used to be. He's still a great player. Could absolutely bring you back something, but I don't know if it's heavy. And I can't pinpoint a team that really needs Wisniewski in the lineup. I mean,
well, let me ask you this then along those lines. I mean, I look at Chicago and I look at their defense, maybe needing a good bit of hands, some offense back there on a power play. Maybe they're pretty solid. He would fit in there somewhere in the top 4. Is he a player like that a Chicago would need, or do they even need him?
Chicago could do it. They have younger defensemen. They have Duncan Keith and Seabrook as their anchors there. They could absolutely use him. I mean, Florida could use him too. I mean, there are teams that could use him. It's just a matter of, are they willing to give it up? Let's touch on the Western Conference. Columbus Blue Jackets, 61 games played, 18 wins, sitting with 43 points. Last 10 games, 5-4-1. Sell. They just traded Carter to LA for Johnson and a first-round draft pick. Where do you see Nash going?
You know, I don't know where. To be honest, there's a couple of choices. I mean, San Jose is a really good choice. I think LA is a choice.
Yeah.
I think Chicago is a possibility. Rangers, yeah. I mean, I think they're all buyers. It just depends on when. I think that's been a pretty big discussion along for a while now.
Trade Nash, try to see what much you can get for him, and then go from there.
I don't think Columbus is good enough right now in a rebuild. They need years to rebuild.
They do. Edmonton Oilers, 60 games played, 54 points last 10 games, 5-4-1. These guys need defense. They're all offense. They got a good goalie in Dubnyk. You see them making any moves. They signed Hemsky last night for 2 years, $5 million per season.
Yeah, I could see them dumping. I mean, they're in a rebuild, and they've been rebuilding for a couple of years, and they've got great young talent. Happy Bulin could go. I could see him going. Other than that, though, they're young. Keep rebuilding.
Anaheim Ducks, 61 games played, 62 points last 10 games on a hot streak, 7-1-2. Getzlaf, Perry, Ryan. Do you see any of them being dealt at the trade deadline?
Yeah, I think it goes back. These guys have been. Well, it's been rumored that these guys have been willing to shop a few players for several weeks now. They need depth and they need some scoring. Their defense is all right. A little bit of depth. Hiller, great goalie.
Hiller's turning it around. Minnesota Wild, 61 games played, 63 points last 10 games, 2-6-2. Minnesota was the best team in the league first half of the season. All of a sudden they've dropped off. They're out of the playoff picture. I would imagine they need to sell off to improve the future and look for some youth.
Absolutely. They need some depth in scoring. They need a lot of left wing help. They don't really have anybody up there in their point totals that are great at left wing. D needs help as well from numbers 3 to 7, I see anyway. I mean, Backstrom is by far a solid goaltender.
I see them trading a goaltender for some prospects if they can do it. Colorado Avalanche, 61 games played, 31 wins, 3 teams tied 66 points, last 10 games, 5-3-2. They're a very young team, very talented team. They've been rebuilding for a few years. If they're going to do anything, they would probably get rid of Hayduk or Stastny, or they would just keep with the team they have and see if they can get in.
Yeah, I like the defense in this team quite a bit. I think they're a good young defense for the most part. Goaltending is, I think, a real liability, and I think they're looking for depth up front, depth in scoring.
Calgary Flames, 61 games played, 28 wins, 66 points, and in the last 10 games, also on a hot streak, 5-1-4. If I were in charge, I'd probably blow them up. Kiprusoff's kept them in a lot of games lately. Ginley is getting to a later stage in his career. While he's still playing great, he's just not a superstar, I don't think, anymore.
No. But does he help somebody, though?
I think he would help someone. Do you trade him, though? I mean, he is the face of the franchise.
I'm a bit of traditionalist and a loyalty type guy. I don't trade him. As far as Calgary goes, though, they need some help up the middle. Their centermen are in big time trouble.
Jokinen is the leading point guard there with 50 points. Kiprusoff's 27, 18, and 6. They got about $2.3 million to $4.8 million to use at the trade deadline.
I like their D.
We're going to see what happens. Los Angeles Kings, 61 games played, 27 wins. Last 10 games, 2-6-2, and they have a point total also of 66 points. picked up Jeff Carter from Columbus. Could they unload Bernier to pick up some more slack?
Absolutely. I think Bernier could be a real hot topic, although the way goaltenders are at a premium this day and age, I don't know, maybe you don't. Maybe you stay with the two goalies, but it's definitely bait. I mean, I look at LA right now, they need some big-time help on the left side and forward line. Depth and scoring left wing. I like their defense. Top, the 1, 2 are great, 3 and 4 are okay, and then they drop off a bit. So depth, scoring.
Dallas Stars. 62 games played, 32 wins, sitting with 68 points, holding 8th position in the Western Conference, playing a couple games in hand. Dallas is 5-3-2. $25 million plus to spend at the deadline. You have, I think, right wing help and a centerman and top 4D are good. You like them, and you like Carey Letton, and you think that's a good pickup. And we'll see what happens if they make any deals. I think they'd be smart to unload some players just to pick up some more youth. They are a building team. I just don't see them making the Stanley Cup final this year.
No, they should stay in the spot they're in for the most part and make the playoffs. I don't see them getting very, very much further than the second round, if that.
Phoenix Coyotes. 61 games played, 31 wins, 9-0-1 in the last 10 games. Hottest team in the league, 71 points. They need to just stay status quo. I think that they're run by the league, they're owned by the league, so they don't have a lot of money, but are really liking the Vermette deal for them. I mean, they traded away Turris earlier in the season. I think they just stay as is. I don't see them selling anybody. I don't see them.
Yeah, I had them looking for help at the center position, and that's Vermette right away. And again, I mean, it sounds like a broken record, but I mean, they're a team as well that I think outside of their centerman, they're looking for that depth, and obviously everyone can use more scoring. I like their D. 1 through 4 are decent. I mean, obviously you can improve everywhere. Mike Smith is having a great year.
Chicago Blackhawks. 61 games played, 33 wins, last 10 games 4 and 6. $22 million plus to spend at the trade deadline. Consensus, they need depth, forward, defense, and a goaltender. A lot of people are thinking they need defense, and they're thinking maybe if they can get Bernier out of LA, that would be a good deal for the Chicago Blackhawks. I guess they're not very comfortable with Corey Crawford in it.
No, I liked Crawford at the start of the season, but he's really struggled since. I've never really been that high on Ray Emery. I don't think he's a consistent enough goalie to play well. They need some left wing help as well. Depth, forward, scoring, and yeah, they're D. It's top 3 are decent, and they drop off a bit. I mean, their defense is not necessarily known for their scoring anyway.
Nashville Predators, sitting in number 5 hole. Nashville Predators, 61 games played, 35 wins, 77 points. The last 10 games are 4-3-3. $25 million plus to spend at the deadline if they chose to. But as we all know, Nashville is a small market team. The consensus is that they don't have a lot of money to spend. If they could spend, they probably need a goal scorer or a grittier type forward to help them on their way.
Yeah, they need some big time scoring up front. I think back end is quite healthy. Obviously, Weber take up a lot of slack, and goaltending is good, but scoring for sure.
St. Louis Blues. 61 games played, 37 wins, last 10 games 7-3, 81 points, $25 million plus to spend at the trade deadline. Now they got a lot of young players to sign. The consensus among believes that they should just stay status quo. They got a good young team, good young nucleus. They need to learn in the playoffs. They may not win this year, but they are on the right track.
I have them looking for some help along the right side and the forward line. They're a little weak on the right side, depending on what wingers can flip-flop. Obviously, I love their defense, and their goaltending has been more than solid this year, both of them.
San Jose Sharks. 59 games played, the least of all the teams in the Western Conference, sitting with a record of 32-20-7, 71 points. Last 10 games, 26-1. They're on a 9. They have about $11.7 million plus to spend at the deadline. They need to get Nash. I think that's a real player for them. If they can get Nash, that would be what that team needs. They're getting older. Not that they're desperately old, but this might be one of the last years that they can contend.
I have them needing more production out of the right wings. A little weaker on the right side than down the middle or on the left. And depth and scoring, obviously. I like their top 3 D. falls off quite a bit after that.
Detroit Red Wings. 62 games played, 41 wins, 15 losses, 3 overtime losses, just with 85 points last 10 games. 6-2-2. $23.5 million to spend at the deadline, thanks to Cap. Maybe backup goaltender for Howard, but otherwise the consensus is that they have a very strong team.
Yeah, I echo a lot of that. If they're looking to upload players from anywhere else in the league, I'm looking more or less their fourth line upgrades if they need it at all, but I don't see them really needing to do much.
Vancouver Canucks. 62 games played, 40 wins, 16 losses, 6 overtime losses. Last 10 games, 8-1-1. Don't have a lot of cap space at the deadline, $400,000 to $2 million. They are looking pretty good. There was a thought that maybe they could look to swing Snyder for a top defenseman or a top forward. Snyder could probably retrieve that for you if you wanted to.
I think so. I mean, I think their top 6 forwards are great. If anything, I'd say they need some production out of their bottom 6 forwards, and the bottom half, their defensive core, their top 3D are great. And yeah, Schneider is definitely trade bait, but they've been reluctant to deal him in the past. Maybe they do it now though to get him over the hump.
Well, thanks a lot for joining us today. We're going to talk next week after the trade deadline's done and talk about the trades and see who we think are winners and losers. And the Western Conference is going to be a tough one. It always is.
I think it's tougher than the East.
It's going to be tough. So after the trade deadline, we'll be back at you looking to talk more about how the trades went down and who is the favorite now after the trade deadline. So keep it tuned to 1 Second Left.